The aroma of burnt sugar hung heavy in the air, a bitter perfume that clung to Amelia like a second skin. Again. Her brow furrowed, a familiar ache settling behind her eyes. This was, what? The 7th attempt this month? Each one ending in a caramelized disaster. Blast it all, she muttered, pushing a stray strand of flour-dusted hair from her face. Amelia, you see, wasn't trying to bake a simple cake. Oh no, Amelia had a vision. A grand, glorious, gravity-defying vision of a patisserie that would make even the snootiest New Yorkers weep with joy. Amelia's Sweet Surrender, she'd christened it in her dreams, a haven of delicate pastries and breathtaking cakes. The reality, however, was her cramped, slightly chaotic Brooklyn apartment kitchen, currently resembling a war zone after a sugar bomb exploded. She slumped onto a wobbly kitchen chair, the springs groaning in protest. Her partner, Leo, a man whose optimism could rival the sun's brightness, poked his head in. His usual cheerful grin was slightly subdued, replaced by a hesitant smile. "Another one bites the dust, huh?" he said gently, stepping carefully around a rogue pool of hardened caramel. Amelia sighed, the fight draining out of her. It's this croquembouche. It's supposed to be elegant, towering, a symphony of cream-filled choux and spun sugar. Mine looks like a leaning tower of burnt disappointment. Leo chuckled softly, a warm sound that usually soothed her frayed nerves. Hey, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a perfect croquembouche. Remember that time you tried to make macarons? They looked like alien pancakes for weeks. Amelia couldn't help but crack a small smile. He had a point. Her initial attempts at macarons had been truly legendary in their flatness and unevenness. Yeah, but eventually I nailed those little devils, she said, a flicker of her usual determination returning. This feels different. Like there's some secret code I just can't crack. The pressure was mounting. Amelia had sunk a significant chunk of their savings into this dream. Leo, ever supportive, had taken on extra shifts at the bookstore to help keep them afloat. But the lease on the tiny storefront she'd secured was ticking away, and Amelia's Sweet Surrender remained a figment of her sugar-dusted imagination. One particularly frustrating afternoon, after her 10th burnt offering, Amelia was ready to throw in the towel. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this, she confessed to Leo, her voice thick with unshed tears. Maybe I should just go back to, I don't know, accounting. Leo wrapped his arms around her, holding her tight. Hey, he said firmly, his usual gentle tone replaced with a steely resolve. Don't you dare say that. You have the most incredible talent, Amelia. Your cakes, when they work, they're magic. Remember Mrs. Henderson's face when she saw the hummingbird cake you made for her anniversary? She cried. Amelia sniffled, a small smile tugging at her lips. Mrs. Henderson had cried. Happy tears, she hoped. Look, Leo continued, pulling back slightly, his eyes earnest. Maybe you need a fresh pair of eyes. What if we went to that old bakery downtown? Sullivan's Sweets? Old Mr. Sullivan has been doing this for like 1,000,000 years. Maybe he has some ancient secret croquembouche wisdom. Amelia hesitated. Swallowing her pride wasn't easy, but the thought of another burnt sugar catastrophe was even less appealing. Okay, she said finally, a sliver of hope rekindling within her. Okay, let's go see old Mr. Sullivan. Sullivan's Sweets was a charmingly cluttered space, filled with the comforting aroma of cinnamon and vanilla. Mr. Sullivan, a man whose hands looked like they'd kneaded dough for centuries, listened patiently as Amelia recounted her string of sugary failures, gesturing wildly with flour-dusted hands. He peered at the photos of her disastrous attempts on her phone, his brow furrowed in concentration. Then he chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Ah, the croquembouche. A temperamental beast she is. He then proceeded to tell her something that made Amelia's jaw drop. It wasn't about a secret ingredient or a complicated technique. It was about the humidity in her apartment. Apparently, the unpredictable Brooklyn weather, combined with her less-than-stellar ventilation, was wreaking havoc on her spun sugar, causing it to seize and burn before it could form those delicate threads. Amelia felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed by a healthy dose of self-reproach. all this time she'd been battling the elements, not her baking skills. Armed with this newfound knowledge and a few surprisingly helpful tips from Mr. Sullivan about controlling the sugar and working quickly, Amelia returned to her kitchen with renewed vigour. Leo, ever the supportive cheerleader, rigged up a makeshift ventilation system using a fan and an open window. The next attempt was promising. The choux puffs baked to a perfect golden brown. The pastry cream was smooth and decadent, and then came the spun sugar. Amelia held her breath, her heart pounding as she drizzled the molten sugar, working swiftly and deliberately. It formed delicate, ethereal threads, catching the light like spun gold. Slowly, carefully, she assembled the croquembouche, the cream-filled puffs clinging to each other, the spun sugar creating a delicate, lacy structure. It wasn't perfect. A few puffs were slightly askew, and one strand of sugar drooped a little, but it was beautiful, elegant, a far cry from the leaning tower of burnt disappointment. When Leo walked in, his eyes widened. "Amelia, it's incredible," he breathed, a genuine awe in his voice. Amelia beamed, a triumphant grin spreading across her face. "It is, isn't it?" she said, a newfound confidence radiating from her. The grand opening of Amelia's Sweet Surrender wasn't without its hiccups. The espresso machine sputtered, and a batch of croissants came out slightly overdone. But the croquembouche, proudly displayed in the centre of the counter, was a showstopper. Customers gasped, their eyes wide with admiration. One elderly woman, her eyes twinkling, approached Amelia. "This," she said, pointing a shaky finger at the towering pastry, "this reminds me of the ones my grandmother used to make in Paris." Amelia's heart swelled. It wasn't just a dessert, it was a connection, a memory evoked. Later that evening, as Amelia and Leo cleaned up, exhausted but exhilarated, Leo leaned against the counter, a proud smile on his face. "See? I told you. You just needed to fail a few more times to figure it out." Amelia playfully shoved his arm. "Oh, ha ha. Very funny. But you know," she said, her gaze softening, "you were right. It wasn't about some innate talent I was missing. It was about persistence. And maybe a little help from an old baker and a makeshift fan." The burnt sugar smell had finally faded, replaced by the sweet scent of success. Amelia knew there would be more challenges, more baking mishaps in the future. But now she also knew that failure wasn't the opposite of success. Sometimes it was just a messy, caramelized step along the way. And the taste of success, after so many burnt attempts, was all the sweeter. The moral of the story is that failure is not the opposite of success, but often a crucial stepping stone towards it. It emphasizes the importance of